Hey guys, it's James from Active, and we launched our premium accessory kit a few months ago, and we've started to get some great feedback from people. And we wanted to take this time to respond to some of the comments and also thank the reviewers out there who are a very important part of the ecosystem in terms of educating customers and bringing awareness to the category and to the products in general. And I think the more people test them and use them, I think the more people know about them, and I think we're very grateful for that. So today we're going to be reviewing, or I should say commenting, on the very thorough review that IMJOSHV did of the Active Premium Accessory Kit. So let's start the video.
Man, Active is probably the best at making extremely good-looking pressure washers and their accessories and all that kind of good stuff. So come on, guys, come on. Right off the bat, the packaging of the interior box is phenomenal. Look at this thing. Let's toss this to the side. This looks so good.
I'm happy that he likes the packaging. I think we spent a lot of time, trying to have a nice unboxing experience and make it feel a bit more premium. These accessories are being made in Thailand, so not in China. And we work closely with our factory there and with the packaging supplier there to really try to get the details right and give it that premium feel. So I'm glad it went noticed.
This is extremely fluid, meaning I'm afraid that it may change on me. Like if I bump it, it's gonna slip over a little bit and change the fan pattern. Not a big deal, you can always just readjust it. Right now we're shooting vertical, right? And if you want to change that to horizontal, you just take it, turn the whole piece, and then the secondary piece back here will click over. And this feels really good, really precise. On this, there's not really any texture. There's just a couple little cutouts. There's basically 3 around the whole thing. It feels a little bit slippery, again, when you're working and you do have soap and stuff.
Yeah, I think this is part of the challenge with product design. So I think everybody has an opinion, and I think on the surface, the question might be why we didn't include that click on both the fan pattern and also kind of the orientation. And it really comes down sometimes to a cost and complexity issue, especially as it related to this and how you change out the filter. So we felt that it wasn't worth the complexity, the additional complexity into the unit to have it click when it was something that people, adjusted quite often. And as for the texture and so forth, I think we did go to try to add a little bit of texture to the grip. But again, this is one of those things that is a preference thing. You just have to make a design decision sometimes, and sometimes people like it and sometimes people don't.
There's 3 here, and they show 4 in the manual. So we get a 1.1, a 1.25, 1.35, and a 1.45. You have a little guide right here as well. So for the 1.1, the pressure and flow range, 1000 PSI, 1.4 GPM. Guys, that's where I've talked about so many times. That's about where the Ryobi 1800 falls when you manipulate the nozzle size, so that's perfect. 1.25 for someone using a 1000 PSI, 1.7 GPM unit. 1.35, here we go, 1000 PSI, 2 GPM, and then it says in parentheses, Active 2.0. So for the 2.0, we want to be using the 1.35. And then 1.45 says 1000 PSI, 2.3 GPM, Active 2.3 in parentheses. And I'm just confused because I think that's a good balance. That's probably why they did it. It'll probably work without causing too many issues for most pressure washers.
That was, again, another design decision around what orifice size to include or to pre-mount in the unit. I think by including all the orifice sizes, we wanted to make sure that the unit could be used in an optimal fashion, no matter what pressure washer you had. So that's why we went to the trouble of testing and including the different orifice sizes. Why we ultimately went with the 1.25 installed, I think it was the best balance across most pressure washers. As some of you know, the wrong orifice size can generate obviously poor performance, but in the worst case, it can also trip the breaker if it's generating too much amperage out of whatever pressure washer you use. Most of the active pressure washer consumers are pretty into their wash setups and so forth, so they'll probably take the time to swap out orifices and test their own. And many of you even have your own preferences when it comes to orifice size and foam type and so forth. But yeah, let us know what you think, and if we should pre-install a different orifice size, maybe that's something that we'll do in the future.
All right, guys, now just looking through the instructions, I don't see anything about how to remove the filter. Now, the filters do go bad. And I'm assuming I can see it right here, right through the prongs, and it looks pretty open in the back. So I'm sure if I just took a little screwdriver, I could poke it through here and it would drop out. I don't want to do that though. It looks to be just a standard normal type of the little brick style filter. Interestingly enough, they also recommend here, I'm just going to read it to you. It states, remove the bottle from the foam cannon and fill with your desired car wash soap and remaining capacity with warm water. Recommended dilution ratio is 100 mils of soap and 900 mils of water. Two things to that. The warm water thing, that's something that a lot of people say, if you use warm water, it gets more foam production. I did a test with that a long time ago. I personally didn't notice it, but it's also something where people say if you use deionized water, you get more than if you're using tap water. Again, I didn't notice it. The other thing to note is, fill it with your with the soap that you want to use, and then they say recommended dilution ratio is 100 mils per 900 mils. But that really depends on the soap that you're using. Sometimes the soap wants 4 ounces, right? And this is basically 32-ish ounces.
I think Josh here makes a couple good suggestions. He talks about the filter and changing of the filter and so forth. Speaking of the filter, we tried different types of filters, different materials and gauges of filters. And the reason we did that was to get, again, that optimal balance of kind of foam and water and making sure the foam wasn't too dry, as well as getting the optimal runtime for a given, call it, liter of soap mixture. So that kind of dictated the foam choice. And I think, in terms of including instructions on how to change out the filter, maybe that's something that we'll add in. So I think that's a great suggestion. In terms of, he's reviewing kind of our basic instructions on kind of foam soap ratio. I think this is a guideline only. Obviously, there are so many different types of soaps in the market, and they all have various types of ratios or recommendations. So I would say most people end up trying or following the soap's instruction with the foam cannon, and I think that's fine too. I think sometimes we forget that not every user is going to be the expert user, and I think it's important from our point of view to provide the basic guidelines on how to use the product and not assume that every product, is a super user or expert. And related to that filter comment, we will be making a very detailed troubleshooting video on exactly how to change out that filter. So consumers that want to know how to do that, they're going to be able to do that quite easily.
We are getting fantastic foam here, guys. I'm gonna try and stack it up on itself. Again, try and stack it up on itself. Kind of getting a little runny as I'm trying to stack it on, but fantastic foam out of the active. Let's go ahead and switch over to the MJJC. So guys, for me, the MJJC is still the drier foam. It just goes on in a certain pattern that no one else can match.
So the question of foam thickness, how wet it should be, how dry it should be, it really comes down, I think, a bit to testing and preference and so forth. In our testing, we wanted a better balance of foam, call it adhesion to the surface, as well as a bit of liquid to pull off the dirt and so forth. And that is what many of our detail clients have also indicated to us. And so when we calibrated the foam cannon, that's kind of the effect we were looking for. Again, balancing the foam effect with how long you could use the foam cannon for, because we didn't want customers have to change out or add soap when they were cleaning out, let's say, a large size SUV. So it really is a matter of preference, and we did do a lot of testing. It certainly isn't a technical limitation in terms of what type of foam you're able to get. It really is almost a calibration of the foam cannon to what type of foam you want to achieve. And we also recognize that people are going to use many different types of soaps in the foam cannon. So even with the best intention to calibrate it a certain way, you are going to get different results based on what type of soap, what is the soap mixture, and so forth. And of course, what pressure washer you're going to use with the foam cannon. Obviously, we test using our own active 2.0 and 2.3, and we know those are going to give you the best results. But we also have to recognize that not everybody has an active 2.0 and 2.3, and the design has to be able to work well with other pressure washers on the market.
This thing's fantastic. It's really, really good. If I was looking at this versus the MTM, I would for sure go here because I do not like the wide mouth attachment on the MTM. Just personally, I don't like it. And if you go with the original, then the neck is really small, which is annoying for filling product. This versus the Griots, this is cheaper. The only thing that the Griots has over that is it has the dosing meters inside of it, which I don't use anyways. So fair, like if you take that out of the equation, it doesn't matter to me at all. I would go here for sure. And if you have a lower PSI, like if you're using a Ryobi 1800, I personally, again guys, this is my personal opinion only, I would personally go with the MJJC still, either the Pro V2 or the SV3. If you're using an active, get this thing, the new active foam cannon, gun, hose, All the accessories kit, phenomenal.
Like I said, I think the community of pressure washer enthusiasts and people really benefit from reviews like this because they give an objective view to the product, how it's used, and how it's compared to other products. As you can see, people have their own preferences and design preferences and even how they use the product or what foam they use. And the challenge when designing product is to say, okay, can you hit the targets that you want to do? Are you going to be better than what's available in the market? And or are you going to provide a superior value to what's already out there? And I think the balance of those attributes is really hard to do sometimes, but I think we've done a great job with this kit. Again, I want to thank IMJOSHV for this very comprehensive review, and I hope you found this review of his review helpful. As always, we're here to answer your questions and any comments and feedback you have. And I think the purpose of doing things like this is to really kind of dive deep, to let you guys understand what goes into some of the products that we build, the design, the thinking, and the intent. I think a lot of reviews obviously come at it from their own point of view. We wanted to give you kind of the behind the scenes look on how we thought and how we built the product. So as always, thanks for your support.